Well, here we are with one Yamaha Emblem proudly sitting on the front of the bike. I've just dropped it in place at the moment, and yes, that's really happy with that. So much better than the two slots we used to have. But yeah, well, we'll fabricate or think about how I'm going to mount it. I've got an idea as to how I'm going to do that. But anyway, so there we go. So thank you. Really appreciative, and that just sets it off a treat. Okay, right, let's talk about the shock absorber first of all. You've seen from my email the problem that I had, and the original nut, I think I've thrown it away now, but this was the offending end, and as I said in my video, I rethreaded that with, I think it was 1.25, just a standard thread, to use a stainless nut, and as you can see, yeah, threads aren't brilliant, but there's enough there, and that is nice and clean. So, oops, drop the nut. But anyway, that'll fit on there. The main reason for doing that was sort of two reasons for doing it. The first one was the bottom part of the shock damper, which obviously fits onto here and holds the whole lot together. This was actually in a really poor condition, so you can see I've replated that, and yeah, pretty happy with the condition of it. Haven't polished the inside, but the other problem was the preload adjuster, which fits onto the shaft. This shaft itself was fairly pitted and rusty, so you can see I've repainted that, cleaned up and painted it up. And the issue was that the adjusting ring, which is this thing here, I assumed it was steel, but when I've actually managed to get it apart and started cleaning, realised it was aluminium. So my original thought was to replate it, but obviously I don't think that's an option with aluminium. So I've repainted it in engine high temperature paint, which has been baked. And the problem was that obviously there was electrolytic reaction between the aluminium of the adjusting collar and the steel of the the outside of the damping tube. And what had happened was that this was absolutely solid, so there was no way you were ever going to be able to adjust the preload on the shock absorber there at all. It actually took about 20 minutes to get it off, and when I finally did get it off, on the inside of the aluminium adjuster collar thing, whatever it's called, was thick corrosion, classic corrosion, the sort of corrosion that you'd normally see in a brake caliper, where you get this difference in metals and the corrosion and the build-up as a result of it, the sort of thing that makes brake calipers stick. So anyway, so that's got that apart, so really happy. I haven't bothered taking it off. The thing, I didn't bother taking it off because I was worried about I might forget on how I got it apart in the first place. But anyway, all I needed with the spring basic was just a clean up. It was a bit of WD-40 in a rag. So that's cleaned up quite nicely. That'll be going back together in a little while. Okay, to my plating setup, and I told you that I'd explain how I keep my solutions up to temperature. And it looks in a bit of a state, but there's little point in cleaning it because it just end up getting back again. This is actually stainless, so it's a stainless steel topped oven plate warmer, which you can see plugs into there, into the mains electric, and that gets it really to a nice temperature actually. Oh, I've actually turned it on, that doesn't matter. So yeah, so that gets to temperature quite nicely, and brings the solutions up to around about, I would think he probably brings them up to in degrees centigrade. I don't work in Fahrenheit, though I could tell you, but look at my thermometer on the wall. In fact, I can tell you on the wall. Well, yeah, that would be about 140 degrees F, I would think, or maybe even hotter than that. But that does make the two solutions work more effectively. So, and the first one, what we've got here is, this is, I think it's called muriatic acid, or it's hydrochloric acid, which is actually, got it on the floor here. This is what I use for this one, which is basically a mortar stain, mortar remover, brick cleaner effectively. And I use that neat, although you could dilute it quite effectively. I actually do use it neat. So this is what I use for two phases. The first phase is when I drop a plate, a part in. In fact, I can actually show you what I do with that. Got a part here waiting to be done. In fact, I can show you this over here. These are some of the parts waiting to be cleaned, and as you can see at the moment they're in pretty poor condition. And these are some of the parts that have already been through the plating process. These are the rear pillion foot peg mounts, the brake pad removing. So those are the parts. So the difference between the two is hopefully evident from the video. So I'll just drop, I think this part is actually the peg. And what I normally do is, before I drop them into here to start with, I would just spend a couple of minutes on the on the electric wire wire brush, which removes some of the muck and things. And I'll drop it into here, and you'll see that you'll get an instant reaction. Hopefully that is coming out. You can see quite a violent reaction, and that is the acid dissolving the zinc plating, which obviously we need to get off. A part that would probably take something like 10-15 minutes. After that, what I do from there is it goes then from there onto the wire wheel to give a nice high shine finish. And then after that, what I would normally do is, and I actually use, these are some old bits but I can possibly reuse them. I actually string them up with copper wire. I've got some over here, and this is basically cable that is stripped down from a reel of what's called twin and earth, which starts off as insulated cable like that, and I strip the insulation off very easily, and we end up with very nice fine wire, which is perfect for stringing the parts up. So after the wire wheel, they're strung up with that thin copper wire and dropped into this. And this is a solution of caustic soda. This has been in here now for a very long time, quite a few weeks. And you can see on the outside, I don't want to touch it because I end up with soft fingers, but you can see on the outside that it's such a strong solution that as it evaporates off, it builds up this crust, which you can scrape off and drop back in again. This is a really effective degreaser. So from there, the part then comes out, goes across to my sink over there, cold running water, give it a good thorough rinse. I then drop it back into the acid for about 1 minute, and then from there it then goes into my nickel plating solution, which is here. Now, excuse me, I used to use a thin nickel plate, which for a 40-inch length of this, very thin, as you can see, it's quite a thin gauge. I don't know, 0.2 or 0.3 of a millimetre thick, quite thin, because I bend it easily with my fingers there. 40-inch strip of that cost me about £10 sterling, and that 2 lengths of that, one each side, would last certainly for enough all the fasteners on one motorcycle and all the brackets and things. But I did a bit of research and found another one, so a different supplier. And I've now bought, I'm going to take them out, but you can see here they're a much thicker, heavier gauge of nickel, and the two of that was one piece, roughly approximately what's that, 4 inches square, something like that, and that cost me I think it was about £15 sterling, so I thought that was a better deal. And there's a lot of nickel there, that lasts a long time. They're held together with copper wire. Obviously it's important that you keep the copper out of the solution, linked together, and obviously that then goes off to the positive side of my power supply, which is here, and the negative obviously goes to the other side. And what I do is I drop, this goes across the top, and this is what I can then suspend my parts on in there. And this is a slow cooker, so I have this on, and that will run and I can pop it on now because I will be doing some nickel plating a bit later on today. That just brings it up to a grunt. I don't know, probably I would think in degrees C, probably about 20 or 30 degrees C, and it just seemed to plate a bit nicer. So that's my setup that I use. I think I've got some of the caustic soda on my shelf if I can find it. Yep, here we go. Sorry about this, let me get there. Okie dokie. So that's the caustic soda that I buy. This was quite an expensive place actually. This is, I think that's 500 grams, so that's about £1, isn't it, or thereabouts, and that cost me £2.39 sterling. So it's that in approximately $3, I would think. Of that, about half of that went into this container, or maybe a slightly larger container. I say so it's a really, really strong solution, and as I said, I think you could probably get away with quite a lot less and to work quite effectively, but that's how I've been working it. And to do my exhausts on the Yamaha, I will probably tip nearly a whole one of those into the solution, and I would think it would be approximately 2, maybe 3 litres to fill the exhaust complete. One thing I did wanted to show, and it's just coincidence I've left this in. This is the one of the engine mount bars. Now, originally this was completely sparkling, straight off the angle, off the bench grinder, off the wire brush, and I've popped it in here for degreasing. And you can see that this has been in about 24 hours now. There's absolutely no corrosion on there at all. But the part that hasn't been in the caustic soda has corroded. That's just the damp in the atmosphere. So quite a good evidence there of how the caustic soda prevents things from rusting, ironically. And I have in the past left fasteners in there for many days without any issues at all. So there's no reaction at all between the caustic soda and steel, which is good. The reason why I do it like this is because of my plating solution container only being relatively small, is I physically can't fit a bolt that length in one go, so I have to do it in 2 halves. So I'll do one end, which I'll do, then I'll clean back at the other end and go through the same process of degreasing the other end, and then it'll go into the container. So hopefully you found that interesting. Not much other progress has been going on since the last video, but at least you get a bit of an idea of the parts here. This is all stuff that's prepared, waiting to go. You can see I run out of space very quickly in my garage, even though it's a reasonable size, especially when I've got 3 other motorbikes just sat there. But yeah, we'll get there, and it will all come back together nicely. So this is actually parts that are all waiting to be cleaned and serviced. These are the brake calipers, all very seized up, but that will be a nice project, nice job to do. That'll clean back up quite nicely, I think. Everything else over there is pretty well done, ready to go. So there you go. Hope you found it interesting, and I'll give you an update as we move on. Catch you soon. Bye.